So how does someone regain trust then? Because we were talking about this earlier. How do you regain trust and regain open communication if someone's been unfaithful or just hurting them for a couple of years in a relationship and you feel like it's not working?
You know, it's interesting because you're asking me this, and yet you, as an amazing role model, have spoken about some of your own experiences of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So you know this question. How do you let someone touch you, come near you, not feel like they're going to harm you? Understand the difference between caring touch and hurtful touch.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing yourself to experience pleasure again. Allowing yourself to surrender without thinking that while you're not on guard, nothing bad is going to happen.
Really challenging.
Right. Okay. But it's that same trajectory, right? It's like you begin to, first of all, well, in this case, you're child versus adult, but you hope that it's not because one person hurt you that you lose your faith in humanity. You hope that you know that there are people who are not harmful, that they really are good people that care and love. You probably trust with your eyes more open. It doesn't have the same naivete. And it depends. If you're asking me, how do I trust you again after you have cheated on me? Or how do I trust another people again? I think it's two different stories.
What about the person you're in a relationship with?
Look, it depends as well. Because
it's hard to let go of stuff in the past, right?
So it depends how long is the past.
Yeah.
If you and I have been together for 2 years, and this just happened, it's a different story than if you and I have been together for the past 20 years. And we have a family, and we have built a life, and we have buried parents, and we have birthed children, and we have built homes, and we have created jobs, and we have a whole life together. And in the midst of this experience happened. And you, my woman, or my partner, male or female partner, went out. And then you kind of want to know, how did this happen? What happened to us? Where were we at? You know, is this related to the relationship? I think the big distinction for me is to figure out what betrayals take place because the relationship had disintegrated in some way or degraded, and which ones have nothing to do with the relationship. Yeah? People who have been sick, people who are unemployed, people who have lost their sense of confidence, or people who have made a lot of money suddenly, the other way around.
Yeah.
People who suddenly feel like they deserve something. Because in a way, when you allow yourself this experience, it's because you feel you deserve it. You justify it to yourself. You come up with good explanations for why you, of all people, can do this.
Right.
I need to understand what you were thinking about me while this was going on. Did you even think about me? Did you think what this would do to me or to our kids, if we have kids? Did you feel guilty about it? Were you tortured in any way, or did I disappear from your screen and you were so grandiose that I didn't exist anymore? Did you want me to find out? Are you relieved that it's come out? Do you actually want to come back? And are you coming back just because it's convenient to you, or are you choosing me again? I think the most important feature in the trust is not only that you won't do it again, but that you really are choosing to be with me again. And that you're not just here because it suits you, or because I make the money, or because we have a family,
or
because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
What I really want to trust is that you love me and you want to be with me, and not that you're here while you're thinking about the person there.
Yeah.
And that goes hand in hand with something else. I think that's probably the most important thing about hurt and the breach of trust, is I come to you and I say to you, I'm really sorry. That we know from any trauma that it's the wrongdoer coming to acknowledge what they've done. If the perpetrator isn't able to acknowledge it, and I'm not calling these perpetrators, but we know in the experience that when you hurt someone, nothing helps you more than the person who hurt you to say to you, I have remorse and I feel guilty for hurting you. Even if they don't feel guilt about the experience of the affair itself. Maybe you think that the affair was one of the greatest things that you have experienced in a long time.
Fantasies or whatever, yeah.
You've been a mother and a wife for the last 7 years and you haven't had a minute to think about yourself and you felt like you had completely died inside, and for the first time you reconnect with your own sensuality and your aliveness, and you remember that you're more than just a mother and just a wife, for example. So you may think this was really important to me, but nevertheless, what it meant to you and what it does to your partner are two different things.
Right.
So my acknowledging that remorse and that guilt is essential.
It's the first step.
First step.
Yeah.
And that is very different from feeling shame. Because when I feel shame, and I feel so bad about myself, I can't believe I did this, it's more self-involvement.
Right.
It's more about
it's like,
me. You know.
Make it about me so you can say it's okay or whatever, yeah.
Yes, I feel so bad about myself that I can't feel bad for what I did to you.
Right.
Right? So I have no empathy. I still have not in the empathy.
Yes.
It's like you need to be able to feel bad for making the other person feel bad.
Right.
And that means that you can't be so bad about you because then it's all about you. Big difference between shame and guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Guilt is a relational responsibility. Guilt is an accountability to the other. That's the first one. And the second thing is that I then become the vigilante of the relationship, meaning that I, for a while you are asking me the same questions again and again because you're trying to figure this out, because your whole reality has just been shattered, I am able to tell you, it's okay, I am here. Just keep asking. I'll answer you. I'm not going to say, come on, enough already. Haven't we gone over this? Let's move on. Let's move on. It's over. Don't you see? No, I cannot rush you. I have to give you the space to make sense, to be in your pain, to hurt, to get angry, to push me, to pull me, until we slowly settle. And there is a period like that of that acute crisis that you just can't push. You have to go through it because it is in the nature of the beast.
It's a process.
It's a process.
No one's going to rationalize it right away and move on. It might take some time. Some people it takes years probably that you've been working with, where it takes years for them to fully trust again, right?
But you know, even when you say fully trust for what? Like I saw this couple last week actually, and you know, I said, you still leave your children with him, you have your money together, you share a home together. While your mother was in the hospital in the last year, he continued to come see her every week. He still is paying for your alcoholic brother. You trust him for a lot of things. It's not one big categorical. You don't trust that he really has finished his story with this woman because you actually know that he fell in love with this woman. And you're right not to trust him. You are right because he doesn't trust himself yet. He is going to take some time to come back. And this is a very ambiguous period for the two of you, where it's very, very shaky. Because you want him back, but you know he's not fully back. And he wants to come back, but he knows he's not fully there. But you trust him for many other things.
Right.
And you need to remember that too. And it'll take a few months. It'll take a few months because he has made a decision. He wants to come back. He believes in what you've built together. But yes, for a moment, he was ready to go.
Wow.
And my work is I hold this, I offer structure, calmness, reassurance, and I basically try to not make anybody make rash decisions, because when your limbic system is hijacked, you better not make a decision about your life.
Just be emotional and it's...
No, you're just in reptile mode.
Yeah.
You know.
In your sessions, what do you find is the root of most divorces or breakups or separations? Is it infidelity or is it something else?
Infidelity is high up there, you know. It's high up there. It's not it, but is it the consequence or is it the cause? That's the question you want to ask. Is it in some relationships, affairs are the death knell for a relationship that was already dying on the vine.
Yeah.
But it was already dead. This was just the way out. And in other relationships, the affair actually is an alarm system that jolts people out of a state of complacency, where for the first time in a long time they realize, oh my God, I better pay attention. I have so much to lose here.
Wow.
So it can make it and it can break it. I think the biggest killer for relationships in general, doesn't matter if they're short-term or long-term, is contempt. Contempt. You can have volatile relationships, but people scream, fight, but they make up and they know that fundamentally they care deeply about each other. Contempt is a form of dehumanization. That's the research of one of the big researchers on relationships, John Gottman.
Really?
The 4 horses of apocalypse, he calls them. One is criticism.
4 horses of what?
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse, got it.
Criticism, defensiveness, right? It's like every time I say something to you, you can't just say, that makes sense, or tell me more, or let me try to understand this, or yes, I'm really sorry, yes, that is a bad habit of mine. No, I constantly defend and counterattack and put it back on you, and, Criticism is, I can't just say, I want you to do this. It's like, you had to let this sit here again. It's like, you're doing this on purpose, right? I've had to tell you 5 times, I don't want that iPad on the table here. What kind of a thing is this? This is just in spite. Can't you just ask for something rather than make a judgment on the entire person? Because criticism is a veiled wish. Behind the criticism, there's actually something I want from you, but I have a way of asking it in such a way that guarantees I'm never going to get it.
Right. It's passive-aggressive energy.
Oof.
Yeah.
You can leave the passive out of it. It's aggressive direct.
Sure, yeah.
It's aggressive direct. I'm like at you. I'm picking at. I'm going after you. So because it's less vulnerable than to put myself out there with a request and say, it would mean a lot to me when I ask you this, that you would do this. And sometimes I've already asked it to you like that 2 or 3 times, and I begin to get more and more upset. By the time people come to me, they've often asked very nicely for years before. I don't get to see that because usually people come to the therapist late in the game. So defensiveness, criticism, stonewalling, silent treatment. I talk to you, you look up. You're somewhere else. I can't get a response. You withdraw, you withhold, all of that. And contempt is that gaze. It's that face that just says, really? You can, with one facial expression, literally reduce somebody to nothing.
Wow.
And I think that one is probably the end of the rope.
Those are the 4 killers of relationships.
Those are the 4 killers. But what people think they divorced for is that they couldn't communicate. But why they didn't communicate is because they were doing one of these 4 things. Or they had arguments about money, or they didn't agree around the children, or they had no sex, or they had terrible sex, or, they think there's a reason, there's a topic. But in fact, the topic is less important than the way they were dealing with the topic.
Yeah.
You have 2 kinds of couples. Those who are at each other like this in the negative space. They are high conflict, or they are avoidant. Too much avoidance, that's it. That's like everybody's gone off somewhere. And too much conflict is this. It's escalation upon escalation. On these 2 axes sits the death of a couple.
So what's the perfect relationship? A little bit at each other, a little bit avoiding?
Yes, this. I mean, this conflict, you resolve it, you move again, you get close again, it's a dynamic thing. Estrangement is like, I don't even know who's living here. When's the last time you had a conversation about something? When's the last time you touched each other? When's the last time you looked into each other's eyes? When's the last time you talked about something else and what needs to be planned for tomorrow? It's not always negative. It's just the affection leaves, the warmth, the love, the aliveness, the vibrancy, it seeps out.
And if you want to learn more about mastering relationships, then make sure to check out this video right here.
Till death do us apart, when de facto, for the majority of couples today, it's till love dies, not till death do us apart.
That's when we divorce.
Yeah.
We break up when love dies.
Yes.